also, more importantly, thanks for introducing all the family, because normally I have to memorize that, and you save me a lot of brain cells to make up jokes about Ed. So,
Yes, sir.
But thank you all for being here. To all the family, it is, the Air Force likes to say it and it becomes cliche, but it's 100% true. He couldn't do what he's done over the last 20 plus years without y'all's love and support at home. And so I want to thank you all, and I know he does too, and you'll get gifts later, but from him, not me. So, but thank you very much for all the support you provided. I have a couple rules for any time I do a retirement, a wedding, funeral, promotion, anything. I have done weddings, yeah, it's true. 10% rule. Air crew, you're familiar with this. The rest of you probably aren't. 10% of what I say has to be true. I can make up the rest as long as it's entertaining. And it doesn't matter who it hurts if it's funny. So we're mainly going to hurt you, but it's good. Lauren a little too. But again, thanks for being here. And I've been preparing for this speech for a long time. And by that I mean about the last 36 hours when his main guy fell out. And he called and said, hey, can you do my retirement Friday? And sure. So, but it's an honor. I really appreciate being here. These are a lot of fun to do. And this is such a huge day in your life and your family's life. It's really special for me to be here. So Ed started off in Pennsylvania, doing typical Pennsylvania kid things, hanging out outside, playing football, wrestling, and it's not as fun for Air Force ceremonies. If you were in the Navy, I'd probably have a great story about how in lieu of going to prison, you had to join the military. But Ed just actually joined because he wanted to. So, and this was a different time than a lot of you younger folks may be used to, in that the recruiters lied to you in a different way than they do now. So now they tell you you're going to get this particular job, and then once you're in basic, hey, just kidding, you're actually going to do this other thing. Back then, you just went to basic and had faith that the Air Force was going to put you where you needed to go, which probably worked out about 3% of the time. But Ed was one of those lucky guys that got kind of what he wanted to do. So while he's in basic, he gets an opportunity to volunteer, to be a SEER instructor, and he jumped all over it. Heads up to Spokane and spends the next few months getting beaten, starved, dehydrated, frozen, overheated, frozen again, starved some more. And that would sum it up?
Yeah, pretty much.
Beaten again,
Yep.
probably slapped around a little bit.
Yep. And then we were training some too.
Yeah. No. Mainly the other things. So he comes through all that, and you know, not everybody does. You got to be a pretty tough person to get through SEER training. For all of us air crew, we do it for about 2 or 3 weeks, and we're all ready to die. And you got to do it for several months over and over again. So no chumps get through SEER training and become SEER instructors. So he's hanging out there in Spokane, beautiful part of the country, living his best life, and goes to a bar called Thirsties one night. And Lauren had moved to Spokane. Not yet. We're getting there. Almost. Lauren had moved to Spokane as a freshman in high school, and so she's living there, and they're at Thirsties dancing. They meet at this bar. And I realized the way I framed that makes it sound like Lauren was a freshman in high school at the bar. And we're going to go with that. So they're dancing, and I looked up some of the top songs of 2001, and this one, I think, I just assume this is what y'all were dancing to when you met. No? It's close. It's appropriate. I wish I was a little bit taller. And I'm done, thanks. The way Ed tells it, Lauren was so enamored by his dance move, she proposed to him right there in the bar. Let's not worry about timelines here, okay? 10%. So, sometime in the next 2 years, they got married, and we're enjoying being a young couple, no kids, unencumbered, having a great time, and Ed gets orders to Okinawa, which is almost exactly like Spokane, Washington, except completely different. So they go from the mountains and snow, and he's teaching folks how to survive in those environments and dodge mountain lions and things like that, to trying not to get sunburned and eaten by sharks. I think that was probably about all you had to talk about there in Okinawa. And he didn't have a lot to do, obviously, because this guy's born. So they show up in Okinawa as 2 and leave as 3. So they end up, the Air Force giveth, as you all know, and then the Air Force taketh away. And so they gaveth and sent him to Okinawa, great time, tropical island, and then they sent him to Edwards, which is not tropical or an island or, fit for human beings to live. And I know this because I was at Edwards at the same time as Ed. And so he goes from great whites and sunburns to trying to keep people from passing out in survival training because of the high desert and avoiding the pretty tame coyotes and the bobcats that take dogs out of your backyard. So that happened. Not that, sorry. And so obviously, again, he's not real busy because along comes Noah. So he shows up he leaves Edwards, or shows up at Edwards as 3 and leaves as 4. So the family has doubled in the last few years, and Ed's doing well in his career. And then the Air Force decided to give it again. And so they send him to Germany. And great tour. And this is pretty, I think, a defining moment in your career. And something that you probably don't know, y'all probably don't know a lot about. I don't know how much he's talked about it, but we had this little thing going on called Odyssey Dawn, where we had a pretty big air campaign to go and hit some bad guys in Libya. So and that was a pretty significant event in the world because it changed the regime in Libya that was not very pro-American at the time. And we had tankers coming in from Mildenhall, so from England, tankers coming in. We got fighters coming in from Aviano and all sorts of other places. There was just this massive amount of aircraft going over the Mediterranean from Europe, and it's a pretty complicated operation. And in any combat operation, even if you have all the advantages, sometimes things don't go right. So there's a Strike Eagle crew doing their thing. I won't say minding their own business because they weren't, but they actually had an issue with the jet and had to eject. So you've got a crew, you got a pilot and his backseater that are now on the ground in very hostile territory. There was really no good guys on the ground in that fight necessarily, from our perspective, and these folks are in big trouble. So Ed had just left, gets called back in, and they say, hey, you're a jump master, right? He said, yeah. They said, so we had a Strike Eagle go down, had a couple folks eject, so I need to tell you where they are. So he asked the questions that you ask in that situation. So where did they eject? Like, you got coordinates? Nope. Altitude. So what altitude were they at? No idea. He goes, well, what were the winds? Oh, we can tell you the winds. So they show him the winds. He goes, okay, I have no idea where they're at. So he does his thing because the personnel recovery business is kind of all over the world. So he starts getting on the phone with a lot of different folks. They start getting intel. I think by then they've gotten hold of the pilot, and they start talking to folks, and he helps find where these guys are at, and they are in trouble. There's bad guys all around. There's dogs, a lot of guys with guns and dogs looking for him, and this guy's on the radio losing his mind, and he's talking to Ed. So Ed gets him calmed down. They work with the team. They get a couple F-16s overhead. The F-16s spot the bad guys that are coming after these guys. They take care of them. And so Ed's able to talk the Marine pilots coming off the USS Kearsarge in to pick these guys up, and they are sitting at home right now with their families. They've never met Ed, probably don't know his name, but they're alive. So most of us don't ever get to play. We do a lot of training and things like that, but don't necessarily get to do it for real. And Ed got called off guard, called back in a dynamic situation without a lot of information, and saved a couple lives. So that's a really big deal. So finished out that operation, and he finished out his time in Germany, heads to San Antonio, and here comes Zachy. So now they got 3 kids ready to go, having a great time down in San Antonio, and decides to come up to Little Rock for his final hurrah in the Air Force. And this is where I met Ed, because my son's in his Cub Scout pack. And so we got to hanging out. Within about 10 minutes, I realized this is my kind of dude. We can camp together and hang out, it'll be good. And pop over to his office every now and then and bring him bottles of stuff, But he's culminated a fantastic career. And those two, the 2 air crew from the Strike Eagle I talked about are, they actually had to do something real world with the training that SEER guys provide. But all of us that fly airplanes in any given day could end up in that situation. Mr. Putin has proved this week that this is a volatile world, and we never know when we're going to get called to go do something somewhere else. And those skills that the SEER community has taught us all could come in handy for us one day. So you affected those 2 directly, but you affected the rest of us directly as well in your whole career field, all the SEER instructors. Because without you, we can't do the things we do. And that kind of sums up Ed. And in the mantra of personnel rescue is that others may live. And that's what he's done his whole life. He's dedicated his life to making sure that those of us that fly airplanes can get home safely if we get in a pinch. That's a noble effort, and it's a really big deal. And he not only does that in his work life, I get to see him do it every day in his personal life with his wrestling coaching, with his running his Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts. And I think what you're probably going to do afterwards is also going to be along that line, serving others, making sure that that people like your son are raised to be good young men and solid citizens, ready to take over the world in the right way, right? Yeah. So, and I know how proud you are of your family and your sons, and I know you spent a lot of time away from them, and Lauren, and what'd you say, about 930 days TUI in your career? So that's a lot of time away from home, but that time wasn't wasted. He was taking care of other folks so they could get home and do the things they need to do so their families could have them back. So suitcase has gone away now. That sounds really cool right now. In about a week, you're gonna be like, when's your next trip, Dad? But I know how proud he is of y'all, and I gotta tell you, I get to spend more time with Zachy than the other two, and Zachy's a master of Scottish Kung Fu, which is wait till his brothers hit the ground and kicking them when they're on the ground and running away. So 3rd-degree black belt, strong. But Ed, thanks a lot again for allowing me to be part of this day today. Thanks for what you've done for your country, for all of us. You've been a force multiplier your whole career. The Air Force is not better because you're leaving, but the Air Force is better because you were there. So thank you, and thank you again to the family, and time to retire you.
It's about to get real hold together. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the presentation of the Defense Meritorious Service Medal and the reading of the retirement order. Attention orders. The Defense Meritorious Service Medal is presented to Master Sergeant Edmund M. DeVaco, Jr. Master Sergeant Edmund M. DeVaco, Jr. distinguished himself in the performance of outstanding service to the United States as Operations Superintendent, Survival, Evasion, Resistance, and Escape Specialist, 19th Operations Support Squadron, 19th Operations Group, 19th Airlift Wing, Little Rock Air Force Base, Arkansas. During this period, Sergeant DeVaco managed 511 classes and 236 high-risk survival capture events that supported 5,980 members across 4 wings, 5 combatant commands. Throughout his tenure, he oversaw an additional 74 parachute training missions, ensuring 151 members across 7 wings were qualified. Additionally, he was requested from the group commander to coordinate the base air show. Sergeant DeVaco oversaw the 11-month preparation, managed $450,000 budget, directed 58 meetings, led 95 personnel, and organized another 676 augmentees. As a result, his efforts showcased the Air Force's show of air power over a 3-day event that was enjoyed by 250,000 visitors. Moreover, Sergeant DeVaco drove a 15-member flight who were continuously recognized at the highest levels with 61 awards, ranging from squadron through major command. Finally, his leadership and mentorship was showcased with him being 2-time winner of the Air Mobility Command's Survival, Evasion, Resistance, and Escape Specialist Senior Non-Commissioned Officer of the Year. The singularly distinctive accomplishments of Sergeant DeVaco culminate a distinguished career in the service of his country and reflect great credit upon himself and the United States Air Force.
Publish the order.
Attention orders. Department of the Air Force, Washington, D.C., Special Orders Number AC 009679, dated 16 September 2021. Master Sergeant Edmund M. DeVaco, Jr., effective 31 August 2022. You are relieved from active duty, organization, and station of assignment. Retired effective 1 September 2022 per AFI 36-3203 in the grade of Master Sergeant. prior to his retirement ceremony if he wanted a big blue Air Force retirement or if he wanted a DeVaco retirement. You guys know Ed, he went with the DeVaco retirement. So here you go. Ed, congrats on the retirement. Though there's truly only one way that I can say congrats to you and your family. So family, friends, if you don't know, it's quite typical that after a jump mission or at the end of a long day of training, we will always make sure that the day is wrapped up properly. In this case, we're not just wrapping up the day, but we're wrapping up your final jump in the military, as well as your 24 years of service. So in true Master Sergeant DeVaco fashion, it's 5 o'clock somewhere. I would like to present to you your first retirement rum and coke, good sir. I'd also like to introduce to you Ed's retirement plan when he's done here today. Okay, we will now present Master Sergeant DeVaco with his certificate of retirement. The certificate of retirement reads, Certificate of Retirement from the Armed Forces of the United States of America. To all who shall see these presents, greetings. This is to certify that Master Sergeant Ed DeVaco, having served faithfully and honorably, was retired from the United States Air Force on the first day of September 2022. Signed, General Charles Brown, Chief of Staff. Every retiree receives a special retirement pin as a memento of their active duty service and as a symbol of their transition from active duty to retired status. Lauren, if you could please come up on the stage and place that retirement pin on Ed's lapel, and then also stay up on the stage afterwards. As hard as you can. All right, Ed, that's enough about you for just a moment. Oh, we're taking one more picture? One more? Oh, okay, good. Time we focus on Lauren. She has had to put up with you for all these years after all.
Easy.
Lauren, at this time we would like to present you with the Military Spouses Medal and Certificate of Appreciation. It reads, the Military Spouses Medal is presented to Lauren DeVaco. The Spouses Medal does not wear a uniform, yet they serve their country. They do not acquire nor bear ribbons showing where they have been, yet they go. They did not ask for the duty they performed, yet they unwaveringly serve to their best ability. They serve, yet they are not honored with trinkets or pieces of cloth showing their sacrifice. The burning candle that you see in the medal there for you signifies the lonely nights that you have spent and that you have kept the home fires burning. A symbol with no beginning and no end, the ring around the candle's flame symbolizes the undying flame of love for your spouse and their sacrifice to their country. This medal is gratefully given to those that do not ask, those that stay on the home front so that their spouse can serve, for they also proudly serve their country. Now, Lauren, for your certificate of appreciation from the United States Air Force. In grateful appreciation, the United States Air Force presents this certificate of recognition to Lauren DeVaco for the commitment and numerous contributions that made positive impacts to the nation's defense. Thank you for the support, which gave strength and purpose to your spouse's service. Given the first day of September 2022, signed Charles Brown, General, United States Air Force, Chief of Staff. All other things that Lauren is receiving, she's getting a letter of appreciation from our base commander, Colonel Ochoa, and another certificate of appreciation from the Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force. Lauren, thank you for your sacrifice. Gentlemen, you're good to sit down. I'd like to welcome Little Rock Air Force Base Honor Guard back inside for Master Sergeant DeVaco's retirement flag folding. For more than 200 years, the American flag has been a symbol of our nation's unity, as well as a source of pride and inspiration for millions of citizens.